He had everything money could buy, but was completely empty inside. A 60-year-old cleaning lady was about to teach this millionaire something that even Harvard couldn't. What happened that Tuesday morning changed not only his life, but will change yours too. Stay with me until the end, because what this simple woman did will move you and show you what really matters in life. Richard Sterling was 45 years old with a net worth of $200 million. A mansion with 15 bedrooms, garage with 12 luxury cars, yachts, private jets. Everything he had always dreamed of having. But every morning, he woke up with the same feeling, an inexplicable emptiness in his chest. Divorced for 3 years, children who only called when they needed money, friends who disappeared after business started going wrong. Richard was alone amidst all that wealth. It was a cold Tuesday morning in November when everything started to change. That day, Richard had the worst meeting of his life. He lost a $50 million contract, his biggest client abandoned him, and his partner betrayed him. He came home completely destroyed. For the first time in years, he cried. There, alone in his mansion's office, he asked himself, "What's the point of all this if I have no one?" That's when he heard a sweet voice coming from the kitchen. "Mr. Richard? Are you okay?" It was Carmen, the cleaning lady who had worked at the house for 6 months. A simple 60-year-old woman, always smiling, whom he barely noticed existed. "I'm fine, Carmen," he lied, wiping away his tears. But she didn't leave. She stood there at the door, with that maternal look he hadn't seen in decades. "You know, my mother used to say that when we cry alone, it's because we forgot that there are people who care." Richard looked at her, annoyed, and what people would those be, Carmen? What Carmen did next left Richard speechless. She entered the office, grabbed a chair and sat in front of him, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Mr. Richard, can I tell you a story?" He didn't respond, but she continued. "I've cleaned houses for many rich people. I've seen everything, happy families, destroyed families, lonely people like you. You know what I learned?" Richard looked at her with curiosity. "The richest people I've met didn't have money. They had love. Love doesn't pay the bills, Carmen." "It doesn't," she smiled. "But it also doesn't leave anyone crying alone." That's when she did something no one had done in years. She put her hand on his shoulder and said, "I care about you. Every day when I arrive here, I see your sadness. You're a good man who got lost along the way." Richard felt something he hadn't felt in years, someone really cared about him. Not about his money, not about his business. About him. "Why?" he asked with a choked voice. "Why do you care about me?" Carmen smiled with tears in her eyes. "Because when I was a child, my mother taught me that every human being deserves love, no matter how many mistakes they've made or how much money they have. You remind me of my son who died 5 years ago. He was also ambitious, also chased after money, but he died alone, never having learned what I'm trying to teach you today." At that moment, something broke inside Richard. He cried like he hadn't cried since childhood, but this time he wasn't alone. Carmen stayed there, in silence, just holding his hand. "You know what's the difference between you and me, Mr. Richard?" she said softly. I sleep every night knowing I made someone smile during the day. You sleep thinking about what you'll gain tomorrow. In the following days, Richard began to see Carmen with different eyes. He noticed that she always arrived humming, always greeted all employees by name, always left small motivational notes scattered around the house. One day, he saw her talking to John, the gardener, who was sad because his son was sick. Carmen had taken money from her own salary to help with the medicine. Carmen, Richard called her. Why did you do that? Because that's what we do for those we love, Mr. Richard. And I love all the people who work here as if they were my family. It was at that moment that Richard understood, Carmen was a millionaire. A millionaire in love, in kindness, in real human connections. She had something that all his money couldn't buy, a purpose greater than herself. The following month, Richard made a decision that shocked everyone. He sold half of his assets and created a foundation to help needy families. But he didn't stop there. He asked Carmen to be the foundation's director. And you know what her answer was? I'll only accept if you work with me, as equals. Not as boss and employee, but as two people who want to make a difference. Today, 3 years later, Richard says that Cold Tuesday was the most important day of his life. I thought success was accumulating things. Carmen taught me that success is accumulating moments, smiles, and gratitude. The foundation has already helped over 10,000 families. Richard remarried, to a teacher he met in one of the social projects. His children started talking to him again, impressed by his transformation. And Carmen? Carmen continues being Carmen. Simple, loving, and richer than any millionaire you know. Richard discovered that true wealth isn't in what you have, but in what you give. It's not in what you possess, but in the lives you touch. If this story touched your heart, leave in the comments, what was the greatest lesson someone simple ever taught you? Share this video with someone who needs to remember what really matters in life. And if you want to see more stories that will transform your day, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Because every day I bring real stories of people who discovered that love is the only wealth that grows when shared. Remember, you may not have millions in the bank, but if you have love to give, you're already richer than you imagine.